here we want to multiply the square root of -8 times the square root of -5 minus the square root of 3. We have a lot happening here with these radicals. First, before we do anything, I would rather just clean up these negatives inside the radical. I'd rather clean up this 8. I could simplify that down a little bit, simplifying radicals. So let's do that. I'm going to take out an I. Remember, if we have the square root of -1, that can be rewritten as I. So since that can be written as I, I'm going to pull out an I from the square root of -8. Now also, the square root of 8, we can simplify that down a little bit. When simplifying radicals, you want to try to think of the largest perfect square. So the largest perfect square that goes into 8 is 4, which is 4 times 2. So this is going to be the square root of 4 times 2. Square root of 4 is 2. And then we still have that 2 on the inside of the radical, because the square root of 4 came out to be 2. So that 2 came out for that 4. And then I have that 2 on the inside still. So this comes out to be 2I root 2 times, pull out I from the square root of -5. So I'm going to pull out I in square root of 5. That doesn't simplify down, so I'm just going to leave that as square root of 5, because 5 is not a perfect square or anything. Nothing goes in. 5 is prime. And then I have the square root of 3. Nothing to pull out there. So here we go. I have 2I root 2 times I root 5. I have 2I root 2 times -root 3. So let's do this piece by piece. So I'm going to do 2I times I whenever we're multiplying radicals. Like if I had 2 times the square root of 2 times 3 times the square root of 3, something like that. I'm going to do the constants, or coefficients, if you want to think of it like that. Not exactly coefficients, but we could do 2 times 3 is 6, so the number's on the outside. And then we would do square root of 2 times the square root of 3. The number's on the inside of the radical, so that would be square root 6 on the inside. So we do the numbers on the outside, and then square root of 2 times square root of 3 is square root of 6. So we're going to take that same approach here. So 2I times I is going to be 2I times 1I. 2 times 1 is 2. I times I is I squared, and I know I could rewrite that. I'll come back to that in a second. And then we have square root of 2 times the square root of 5, which is going to be the square root of 10. 2 times 5 is 10, and that's on the inside of the radical, so that's why I'm just doing 2 times 5. Then minus 2I, and this is just 1 root 3, so that's why I'm just doing 2I times 1, and it's minus because it's -1. So 2I times 1 is 2I. Square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is going to be square root of 6. And then, as I mentioned before, I do have this I squared here. I squared is equal to -1. So I'm going to rewrite I squared as -1. So this is going to be 2 times -1, square root of 10, minus 2I, square root of 6. 2 times -1 is -2, square root of 10, minus 2I, square root of 6. And I would be pretty okay with just leaving the answer like this, like if the exercise is just to multiply this out. But I think there is an extra step here where you can factor out either the -2, since we have a leading negative, or just the +2. But let me just rewrite it both ways. So we could leave it like this, but if we want to fully simplify this, we could take out this -2, which would then make this positive root 10 plus I root 6. And if I asked this question on like an exam and a student gave me back this answer, like I would say, yeah, cool. Like you're telling me you know how to multiply this out. But both of these answers, like this is probably a little bit more simplified and a little bit more correct in terms of like a textbook. I think it would want this answer. But in terms of just, do we know how to do this? Yes or no? This answer tells me that, yeah, you do know how to do this. So cool. So there you go.